All right. So yeah, looks like we're live. Cool. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. It was nice to see a few people waiting for the video. So for today's video, I'm actually going to be painting a sunflower. So we'll be doing this one, and it is one of my videos already on my YouTube channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be changing the colors. We'll be doing a purple background, and I'm going to change the flower colors to more kind of a darker red. So we'll be doing kind of a red sunflower. And I wanted to do that to show that any of my videos on my YouTube channel, you are more than welcome to switch out and change the colors and make your painting your own. I generally teach first-time and beginner painters, and I want you to know that whatever you are creating is awesome. Just the fact that you're at home painting and going through the process, that already makes you successful. So as you're looking at my videos and you would prefer a different background color or a different color in yours, please feel free to switch it up. All right, so with this particular video, I'm not sure if you can see it at home, but I do already have my outline on here. And I offer what is called a traceable. And you can purchase them off of my website. Or if you don't want to purchase the traceable, on my other videos, you can kind of forward it to the point to where I have the outline done on there, pause the video, and then you can draw what you see. Or if you want to purchase your traceable, literally for $2, you get to print out your traceable. You can use it as many times as you want. I do recommend using carbon paper to transfer your traceable to your canvas or your panel. And when you purchase the traceable, there is a video explaining how to transfer your traceable. So I do walk you through all the steps. So again, a few more are jumping on and joining. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope everybody is doing well. This has actually been really awesome to do the live feeds. I'm still working with some technical issues and getting comfortable with it, but kind of having a set schedule of painting every day at 11 o'clock with you guys has been really nice, kind of getting through all this social distance and social isolation. So with all that being said, let's jump right into painting, and I'm going to switch the camera so that way you can actually see both of these at the same time. There we go. So that way you guys can paint at home. We are going to be using the large brush, and like I said, I've already got my outline drawn on here, and we're going to be going from the edges of the line to the edges of the canvas, filling up our background color. Now when you mix your paint, I've got purple right here and white, so we're going to make kind of a medium purple color. You want to pull some of that white aside, and then a tiny amount of pigment goes a long way to kind of make your color. And you can make it whatever shade that you want. I'm going to add a little more purple to mine. And you do want a touch of water on your brush, but you never want your brush dripping wet. So you're going to kind of mix to the desired color that you like. And then as you're painting your background, you've got a couple of brush strokes to try. Try the wide brush stroke, and then you want you to turn your brush sideways and try the skinny one. And that one's actually really good as we're going around the perimeter of our outline. And then most of my students' favorite brush stroke is literally making X marks and kind of slapping your brush on the canvas. So feel free to try all three of those as you're painting your background. And then whichever one you're feeling a little more comfortable with, stick with that as you fill in your background. So again, I'm using kind of that big wide brush. I am applying my paint kind of thick. It gives you a little bit more workability if you apply it thicker, and we can do some wet on wet blending. I'm just going to move that so I don't get the plastic painted. And if you are painting on a stretched canvas, I do want you to kind of carry your color over the sides, the tops, and the bottom. That way it makes it look nice. I'm actually going to adjust this a little bit more. There we go. So you can at least kind of see my face as we're painting. All right. So again, we're filling in all the space from the edges of our lines to the edges of our canvas. And if you need to grab one of the smaller brushes to get into these little nooks and crannies around your design, feel free to do that. And if you're at home, I do recommend that you turn on your favorite music and play that. given that this is a YouTube live feed, I can't play any copyrighted music, which pretty much is everything. So you get to deal with listening to me and talking to me. So if you have any questions, I do have the chat going up on my computer. So feel free to ask any questions and I will address those. All right. And there is something just really nice about moving paint on the canvas. It's a wonderful escape from our current reality, our different degrees of isolation that everybody's dealing with. And, you know, there's a lot of anxiety and fear happening right now. So painting is an excellent resource to just distract yourself. All right, and if you're painting along with me and you are holding your breath right now, take a deep breath and just relax. Let it go. And if you feel like you need to do that throughout the day, please do that. We do need more relaxed human beings in the world right now. Really always, but especially right now. All right. So again, just kind of filling in all that space. If you have to mix your color 2, 3, 4 times, do not stress about getting the exact same shade every single time. Having some variety in your background is to your benefit, and it just makes for a very interesting background. Once I get most of this kind of filled in, I am going to talk about a wet on wet blending method, and that will help you kind of change the shade of your background, and you can even introduce new colors. All right, and again, for my first time painters, you're doing a great job. My beginner painters, you're doing an awesome job for coming back and continuing to paint. First time painters, hopefully you'll be get to say that about you as well, doing an awesome job by continuing to paint. Painting is one of those things that maybe you're not perfect right from the get-go, and that's usually how most things are, but with practice, you get more comfortable and it becomes less scary. And then you have a little bit more courage to try a few other things. So a lot of painting and a lot of my students are stepping outside their comfort zone when they paint. And kind of as a life skill, when you can do it with painting, then some other things in life that are a little uncomfortable or a little out of your comfort zone aren't nearly as bad. And given the time that we're in right now with so many changes happening, the more we can kind of just flow with them and make the best of it, the easier it's going to be to deal with it. All right. So again, just painting the background. You don't have to paint as fast as I'm painting. I am actually trying to keep some of these videos around 30 minutes. More for the fact because I have another live feed with the San Diego Humane Society next Friday, or actually this coming Friday, the 27th, and they need a little painting that's going to be about 30 minutes. So this is my practice week for doing that. But definitely jump over to the San Diego Humane Society Facebook page on Friday at 2 p.m. and check out the painting that we'll be doing. All right, so if you're used to my other videos, this would be the place to take a progress photo. And now we're going to do what I call wet on wet blending. I'm going to take some of my darker purple, literally just kind of have a big blob of it, slap it in a few areas. This is very therapeutic, so just slap it on there. And then just like mixing your paint on your plate, as you move your brush around, it kind of blends together. So you do want to kind of use light pressure as you're doing this. And the more you move your brush, the more it kind of blends together. And if you even feel like finger painting, go for it. It is very nice just to kind of get a little messy, go back to being a kindergartner. You can work on different lines, different directions it might go, and then definitely wash your hands afterwards. But play with your background. You can introduce another color if you want some blue in there. If you happen to go over your sunflower design at all, don't stress. Take a deep breath. If you paint over an area, you just let your paint dry and then you paint on top of it again. So even here, we'll wait for the plane. I do live right next to the airport, my studio. There we go, not so much plane. But right here you can see where I overlapped my background on top of the leaf. No big deal. By the time we get to that, that'll be a little bit drier and I can put my colors of green on there. So with acrylic paint, don't stress out too much about anything, because if you don't like it, you let it dry and you paint on top of it again. All right, and I'm actually going to grab the smaller brush and throw some white up at the top here. So using the smaller brush, same thing, wet on wet blending method, slap that white on there, and then with light pressure, move your brush back and forth to kind of create a lighter area, a lighter gradation. And if you kind of do this and maybe you lose that color that you liked, just reapply your color and move your brush on top of it, but move it less amounts of time. Our lighter colors actually get kind of eaten up in the darker colors rather quickly. So like here, if I wanted that a little bit lighter, I'd slap that on there and then just move my brush once or twice as I blend into it. And generally this is probably one of the more therapeutic parts of the painting process, of just moving paint and playing with it. And again, going back to being 5 years old again. I call my students, or I call myself an adult kindergarten teacher, and all my students are my kids that get to come to class. So you guys just get to come to class in your homes with me, but I'm really glad that you're joining me and hanging out and hopefully painting. All right. So yeah, and it's actually kind of interesting to watch the painting on my phone as I'm doing it for you guys, because I see the reverse image compared to what you guys are seeing. So that's always kind of a nice way to keep your brain fresh as you're looking at your artwork. So if you've worked on a piece for a long time, hold it in front of the mirror so you see the reverse image, and you'll see what you either want to work on or what you like, or maybe it's not so bad. But you do have to kind of trick your brain every now and then to see your painting fresh. All right, so that looks pretty good. All right. Okay, so next we're actually going to go to the center of our sunflower, and I will keep with this as doing the brown. And I'm going to clean my brush really good and try not to shake the table as I do that. Everything these days is changing and learning as we go. So with our brown, I'm going to be using raw sienna, a light brown. So whatever you happen to have for your light brown at home, you're going to use that. Raw sienna is a bit more of a tan color. And we're going to fill this whole thing in, and again, I'm applying it pretty thick because we're going to be putting some paint on top of this. And if you are using student grade paint or really, really cheap paint, you may notice that your paint is really transparent. And nothing's wrong with student grade paint or the cheaper paint, you know, just the fact that you have something to use, that's awesome. But like I said, it's a little bit more transparent, so you might have to apply 2 coats of it or apply it really thick and then use light pressure with your brush to kind of keep that opacity. And the more that you paint with your materials, the more comfortable this will get. And as you get more comfortable with painting and you want to try the artist grade paint, maybe move up 1 color at a time and just kind of get comfortable with it, because it is a bit more on the expensive side, especially depending on what color and what brand you're getting. All right, so as you can even see on this one, we've got a bit of a darker space and then lighter area. So using the same brush, I'm grabbing what we call burnt sienna, and that's going to be a bit more of a reddish brown or your darker brown. And being kind of generous with the amount of paint that I'm putting on there, we're going to do this kind of stabbing method. So I'm going to hold the brush perpendicular to the canvas, and almost like a pointillism, I'm just going to be stabbing that around the perimeter of the circle. And then we're going to do that in the center as well. And with this stabbing method, like I said, it's kind of like pointillism. You will notice that that lighter brown gets picked up with that darker brown and kind of creates a new color. This is a different way to do some of your wet on wet blending. And here we're going to put it in the center now. And almost making kind of like a C shape, not quite a circle in the center. And as I look at it on the screen, it kind of looks like a heart shape almost. So I'm going to leave that. Clean your brush, and we're going to grab a touch of white just to kind of give a little bit of a highlight, and then we'll come and put more of a highlight towards the end on there. All right. So grabbing some of my weight, same thing, doing that stabbing method. And I'm going to put the highlight in a slightly different area compared to the sample. And again, you'll notice as we do this, this white and the raw sienna underneath it mixes together, so it's no longer pure white. If you do this too much and you kind of lose that, just grab your white and do it again. There we go. All right. Oh, got another plane going over. Still good. Actually, a helicopter. Wow. All right. So if you haven't in a while, please take a deep breath, relax. You're doing great. And given everything that's going on, please just continue to keep taking deep breaths. All right. So I'm actually going to give a little bit more time to dry on the background. So I'm going to move into putting the stem and the leaves on here. And depending on what shade of green you have, you may want to mix it with white, make it a little bit lighter. I'm going to mix mine with some yellow to make it a bit more of a spring green. And again, I am using student grade paint, so it's on the transparent side. So I'm going to apply this, again, pretty thick. So starting with that stem, using the width of my medium flat brush, and filling in the space. And again, I'm painting kind of quick, so my background is still wet. If you're painting at home, I do recommend that you let your background dry before you move into painting your flower. All right. Again, kind of using that light pressure to apply my paint kind of thick. And here, once your background's dry, if you need to overlap your background a little bit to reshape your leaf or your stem or even the tips of your petals when we get into that, feel free to do that. All right, and again, kind of thick. We are going to do that wet on wet blending one more time. We're going to put a darker green, more of the straight green on the bottom of each of our leaves. And then we'll put a little bit of the straight yellow for a highlight on the top of the leaf. So here I am grabbing just that dark green. Gonna put like a little swipe down there, another little swipe, and then I'm gonna put a little bit on the left-hand side of the stem. Again, kind of just giving the indication that we've got a shadow happening. And for my first time and beginner painters, be kind to yourself as you are getting comfortable with this. You are learning a lot right now. Your brain's taking in a lot of information as far as how to mix your colors, what it feels like to hold the brush, the pressure of the brush against the canvas. So a lot of stuff that you're learning right now will make more sense the next time that you paint. So as I am kind of blending this in, again, using that light pressure and just kind of moving my brush between the two colors to soften that line while keeping my kind of dark shadow on the bottom of the leaf. Same thing when we move to the top, grabbing that straight yellow, putting a little arc on the top. Oops, a little more yellow, putting it right on top. And again, remember your lighter colors will get eaten up in your darker colors a lot quicker. So using just kind of minimal strokes and just kind of softening and breaking up that line. There we go. And sometimes up close it may feel like, oh my gosh, that's too much yellow, too much of a highlight. But as you step away from your canvas and you get about 5 to 10 feet away, it may be, oh, just enough. So as you get in the habit of painting, I want you to get in the habit of stepping away from your painting and looking at it from a distance. Because again, up close, we're gonna see a lot of stuff that we may not like, but then when we step away from it, our eye visually blends a lot of things together and you go, okay, not too bad. Let me do it again. So again, my first time in beginner painters, be kind to yourself in the beginning stages of the process. All right, so now I'm actually gonna move into our petals. And I still have a few places on my background that's still wet, so I'm just gonna be very cautious of that when I come up to it with my color. The top part's pretty dry, so I'll probably overlap a little bit on the background. And I'm actually going to start with yellow for the big kind of petals in the front. And I'm going to lay that on there kind of thick again. And then I'm going to use a yellow and red mixture to kind of put the shadow on there. So again, we're building all of our skills from the background to the leaves to the flower. So that way you get more and more practice. All right, so I'm actually using just the straight yellow right now. And I'm going to fill in all the kind of the front main petals. And again, if you are at home, I do recommend, and you're watching the replay, I recommend that you let each of these steps dry before you move into the next one. Because again, I'm being cautious coming up close to the center of my sunflower. And as we're doing this, remember to breathe. It is not to your benefit to hold your breath. And if you're finding that your hand or your brush is shaky as you go to the canvas, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, and that makes it a little bit easier. All right. And it is kind of nice as we dwindle away that white canvas space, how much it starts to take shape and starts to look better. It's amazing how much that white canvas affects our interpretation of the painting. So again, be kind to yourself as you're going through this process. You're actually a lot more creative than you realize. All right. Doing a great job. Relax. Aside from watching this video, hopefully you are not staring at another electronic device. And that's one of the beautiful things about painting. We do need our escapes from the world. Oh, one more. And again, I find it kind of interesting. I'm painting sideways and not directly in front of my canvas. So things do look a little bit different as I'm doing that. And then I see it a little bit different on the screen. So no matter what, there's always something intriguing to look at. All right, so now I'm actually going to take the red, and the red's pretty powerful color. A lot of our dark colors are pretty powerful, so a little bit goes a long way. So I'm actually going to kind of take this and let's do kind of the bottom right-hand side. We're just going to kind of wipe that red into it. And again, remember a little bit, actually let's go bottom. A little bit goes a long way. Then we're going to do that same kind of wet on wet blending. And by doing the shadows kind of in the place that I'm doing them, we're imagining that the sun is kind of coming from the top right-hand side. All right, so I know it looks kind of weird right now. You're going to wipe your brush off. If you want, you can clean it, but you don't want too much water on your brush because I still have pretty thick yellow paint. And just like we did down on the leaves where we used light pressure to blend those colors into it, we're going to do the same thing here. And again, light pressure. It's a little bit different when you are doing this into a lighter color. So be kind, be nice to yourself. And I do recommend that when you go from one petal to the next, wipe off your brush and then go back to kind of doing that blending. And again, you're getting great practice. Your brain's taking in a lot of information. And you're working on your muscle, eye, hand coordination. All good skills that we need to continue with in life. All right. And if the color kind of happens to change and maybe it gets to be a bit more of that kind of burnty orange color, that's okay. Each time that you paint, you're kind of a person for where you're at today, where your emotional status is, how you're feeling, maybe what's on your mind. And tomorrow's going to be a different day. You're going to have different things that you're concerned about, that you're thinking about. So be kind to yourself as you're going through this process. All right, so I'm going to fill in these back little petals, and I'm actually going to use a bit more of that kind of burnt orange mixture that we were making in here. So pull some of your yellow aside on your plate, and again, add a tiny amount of red to get to that shade, that color. And I'm going to make mine a little bit darker. And then we're basically going to be filling in the remaining canvas space that we can see on our canvas. And I am overlapping my background with the tips of these little petals. And applying it kind of thick. So again, wait for your background to be dry before you overlap with your colors. Remember to breathe. A lot of times I have to remind myself of that as well. If you need to move down to a smaller, pointier brush, feel free to do that. And remember that the more that you paint, the more brush control you get. So if this is your first time ever painting, you're learning a lot. And I do recommend doing some of these paintings maybe in 6 months from now, maybe a year from now, and then look back at your first painting of this compared to your second one, and you should be able to visually see how much you have learned and grown with your painting skills. And it's one of the few times that we get to visually document our learning process. So that's why I encourage so many progress photos. And it's also nice to look at your progress photos and just see how much you change a white canvas into your final piece as you go through the steps. In this society of so much immediate gratification and so much craziness going on, we do have to find our places in our life that we can kind of reflect upon and realize how far we've come or what type of person we are, and continue to kind of hone in to be who you want to be. And art's a really good way to reflect on things like that. All right. Cool. Hey, thanks for showing up. Awesome. I forget to look over there and check out comments. So thanks, gentlemen, for joining us. All right. Okay, so this is another good spot to take your progress photo. We are at what we call the underpainting, when there's no canvas space left. So if you can see a few little spots on yours, just go back in with your little brush, kind of fill all those in. And also keep in mind that you won't see these from far away, but it's a good habit to kind of get into. So I am actually going to go in with one more dark kind of shadow in there as the petals kind of meet closer towards the center. And then that'll push us probably just a little bit past our half-hour mark. And then your final option, if you want, kind of like the main sample, is putting a black outline on there. And that you can do after the session if you like. All right, so adding a bit more red to that mixture I was just using, and pulling them in a little bit closer for the back petals. And because my paint is still really wet, I am actually kind of using a bit of that stabbing method, the pointillism method. Nice. Oh, cool. Well, Matthew, I know you're 13. That's awesome. Thanks so much for joining and getting into the arts already. That's awesome. And let's see. And thanks, Mike, for jumping on and being supportive. Appreciate it. All right, so once you've kind of put your darker red shadows on there, again, we kind of have a sharp line. So wiping off your brush and using that light pressure to kind of blend it into those petals. And again, these are skills that you will build on each time that you paint. Okay, not looking too bad. All right, so what I actually want to do is put just a bit more of a highlight on the bottom. And then I think I'm going to use a little bit of white for a few highlights on the petals. And then I'll kind of leave it at that, because like I said, it puts us at about the 30-minute mark. And then those of you that paint this at home, like I said, if you want to go through and do that black outline, on the main video for this one, it goes through that process for you. All right, so a little bit of white. And again, my paint's still kind of wet, so just kind of putting a little stripe on there. Like I said, the white gets eaten up pretty quickly in the other colors. Wiping my brush off, and then again using that light pressure just to kind of blend it in with there. And if you don't want to do this on yours, you don't have to. Totally optional. All right, so now, because again, I'm imagining that the sun's coming from that top right-hand corner. We're going to throw a little bit of white on here. And again, wipe your brush off, grab more white. And it doesn't have to be on all the petals, but it just kind of gives our eyeball illusion of where that sun is coming from, where our light source is coming from. So again, wiping off my brush and going back to kind of softly blend this white into the tips of the petals. All right. And again, be nice to yourself as you're doing this. So I really appreciate everybody coming out and checking out the video. And if you're catching this on the replay, thanks for coming and checking it out. We are in tough times, so if you would like to continue to support these videos, please continue to watch the videos, share it with friends, share it with your kids, share it with teachers who could be using this in their classroom. Please check out my online school, Paint with Lovejoy. And if you're inclined to offer financial support, check out my Patron page. There's a link in the description box below. If you could even throw me $2 to $5 to $10 a month, almost like buying me a couple cups of coffee, it does help support me making more videos and continuing to be a working artist. And it truly is with your support that this has been happening, and I continue to get to move forward with it. So thank you guys so much for checking out the video today. Tomorrow, I actually haven't decided what we're painting tomorrow. I've got a few things listed out for next week, but leave a comment below what you want me to paint here in kind of 30 minutes. Maybe I'll start doing a few longer ones. Or leave a comment on my Instagram at Paint with Lovejoy. So thanks again for joining me today. I will see everybody tomorrow. Cheers.